Hello and welcome to News Up Now. I'm Gleidson Martins. San Francisco, let's say it's more pinkish. The pink triangle shines the city by the bay. And to talk about that, I'm joined by the creator of the pink triangle, Patrick Carney, and also from the founder of the Illuminate, Ben Davis. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello.
My pleasure.
Hi, Patrick, can you take us back to the first year of the pink triangle in the city and tell us why did you decided to create such a symbol today?
Well, it started out, as I tell everyone, as a renegade crafts project that went up in the dark of night so we wouldn't get arrested. But it really, it was later that we found out people didn't know what the pink triangle
They're finally
was.
coming to arrest you now, Patrick. They were late, but they're coming. I can hear them.
I can hear them, yeah, outside my window.
But they're going to knock at the door, huh?
When the siren dies down, now that the word's out. Anyway, it didn't have quite the noble beginnings. It started out simply to add a little color to the parade. And we were in a restaurant and I looked out the window and said, that's my favorite place. There's a big blank canvas up there on Twin Peaks. That's where I take everyone that comes to town. The first place we go is Twin Peaks. And it really is a sacred place. It's a spectacular place. So to take pride up on the mountain was a logical choice. And it was later we found out people didn't know what it meant. So that's why it's still going 25 years later. It's a giant community building project with an educational message. And as long as that educational message still gets out there, then there's a reason to keep going. And this year, even this month, shows why it still needs to continue. Minorities are always targeted. And that's this triangle. I don't know if your viewers know, but it's part of an array of colored triangles used in the Holocaust by Nazis to define their undesirables. Blue for immigrants, black for asocial, yellow for Jews, brown for gypsies, pink for gays, and red for political prisoners. And, whether it's gays or blacks or Mexicans or Jews, there's always somebody targeted, somebody that's got to be the scapegoat. And those people are, they create a sense of other, that you're not one of us, you're the cause of our problems, and we need to keep you under control, and we need to get away from that. And that's what this symbol represents.
So in the first year, you have up to or more or less, of 175 canvases. Is that right?
Right. It was called Paragraph 175, the Nazi statute that led to the persecution of gays. So we have 200-foot long strips of sailcloth on the edges, and then the middle's filled in. I call it coloring between the lines with 175 tarps.
Interesting. Wow, that's amazing. A piece of history right there. So to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Pink Triangle and infusion to the 50 Pride, SF Pride, so you brought Ben Davis from Illuminate to change a little bit the pink this year?
Well, I've known Ben for years, and things became iffy in February. By early March, they were getting more iffy. And people from the Chronicle had asked me about the pink triangle, and I said, there will be a pink triangle, even if it's only the outline. If my sister and husband and I have to put it up, there will be something there. And Ben and I had been talking, and we talked about how we could do lights even if the canvases were there. Turns out then all of the restrictions for social gathering took place. And so we have the outline up, and Ben's filled in the center of the outline with 2,700 pink LEDs in 43 rows. And Ben can tell you all about that.
And let's bring Ben to add more to our conversation. So Ben, how was it for you to join the team?
An extreme honor. I've always viewed the triangle with great love and affection and consider it part of the spiritual infrastructure of San Francisco. So part of my COVID practice, I guess, is to spend too much time at my desk in meetings like this, and then just break out and head up to Twin Peaks where I'll bike and run. And they've closed the gates as part of COVID, so instead of going over the Golden Gate Bridge on my bike, I actually would just loop back and forth. And I spent many, many hours just looking out above the place where Patrick's Triangle was, thinking about the city as a canvas in general, but starting to get very curious what Patrick was going to do, and picked up the phone and called him, and then figured out that, and quickly, that this is not only was there some question about the ability to finish the Triangle completely this year, but also that it was the 25th edition of the Triangle on the 50th anniversary of Pride. And I was hooked with the power of the idea. And, to Patrick's great credit, we just instantly partnered and got to work in an incredible team effort.
Supposed to be at the Twin Peaks until July 7th. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Through the evening of July 10th, which is actually the conclusion of the 23rd International AIDS Conference that was going to happen in San Francisco, that's gone virtual. But in honor of that important gathering, we're staying illuminated through that evening.
But there's a petition to be extended throughout the year. Is that right?
I have seen that petition. I always consider it neutral territory, that it should commemorate various things. So far, the Pink Triangle has been the main one. The only other time somebody used the space is when the AIDS Foundation contacted me in 2010 about how to put a ribbon up. So they had it up for about 3 months. And it was a much smaller visually because, it's open in the middle. But it came out great, and it was wonderful to see something up there. But really is, like Ben said, it's that area is part of the spiritual infrastructure of the city, or the Pink Triangle is. But it would take some cultivation year round. And ironically, it could be other colored triangles. It could be the green triangle in the spring and the yellow triangle at the end of summer.
See, here's the difference between Patrick and I. Patrick's always worried about the work because he does all the work. I work hard, but my work is getting other people to do the work. And so I'm not afraid of really the deeper transformation that's possible here on Patrick's 25th edition of this triangle, to take that outline, fill the middle of it, not with tarp in future years that lasts for 3 days, but with plants, native plants to California that bloom pink in June, and create a real infrastructure and bring the lights back every June from June 1st to June 30th as part of the annual tradition of the city, signaling pride in California in a very powerful and overt way. And having, creating an iconic piece of the infrastructure of the city that, and to Patrick's great credit, part of this pink torch procession that evolved around this thing to expand the inclusivity in this really critical time. And that pink torch, which was lovingly made by a San Francisco's arts group, which the photographs will show, started off with Mayor Schaaf in Oakland on the steps of City Hall with representatives of Black trans lives and Black lives and other folks and Dykes on Bikes, and made its way around Lake Merritt with this torch procession with each person beaming with the power of pride in their face. And then up Market Street with the sisters and everybody else, I guess apparently near City Hall, and made its way to the top of Twin Peaks for this torch lighting, where Mayor Breed then formally lit the Pink Triangle. And it was a powerful, radically inclusive moment full of the most rich, beautiful photography that I hope is showing right now as you're doing this. I wanted to make the invitation for you to show it because it's Patrick's projects tend to have this powerful record of people working together in beautiful ways, in a beaming way. So the people putting the canvas down that you recorded last year, there's this whole other thing that's happened this year that really is beautiful and is a record of this moment in time that people will look at 50 years from now and go, wow.
So what is next? I mean, let's say we have the vaccine for COVID-19 next year. What is the future for the Pink Triangle? Is it going to be lights, or is it going to go back to canvas?
Patrick's call.
Well,
let me just say this, Patrick, before you go. Illuminate has the history and the tradition of gifting our installations. We gifted the Bay Lights to the people of California. They now shine nightly in perpetuity on the side of the Bay Bridge. It was originally a 2-year installation. The Conservatory of Flowers we gifted to, sort of Golden Gate Park and the Conservatory of Flowers, where they now shine nightly. Grace Cathedral, the Grace Light at Grace Cathedral, we've gifted to the cathedral for them to show at their discretion in perpetuity. And we have gifted these lights to Patrick Carney to use at his discretion moving forward. So I will frame it, but there are literally no strings attached. He can, if he thinks it's a good idea, and we'll support him to try and figure out if we want to get him up in future years, he can. But it's really his call here, because this is the symbol he's in, the piece of art that he's created. This is, no matter what happens in future years, it'll always be Patrick Carney's Pink Triangle in my mind. There you go, Patrick. That's your setup to say whatever you want now.
Well, thank you, Ben. And, you know, the most spectacular thing about this year has been the new friends I've met. You know, I've known Ben for years, but meeting the rest of the team, his love, Vanessa In and Patricia Wilson and Maddie and David Hatfield. And, you know, it's been a great process, and it's taken the PinkTriangle to, I mean, it's been so totally enjoyed by everybody. I have received a few emails from people saying, can't wait to volunteer again and on the Fabric Triangle, because, you know, it is a community building event. I think if it became permanent out of flowers or plants, it could still be a community building event, you know, as Ben and I were discussing earlier. So it could be a gardening crew rather than a canvas installation crew. We still love the lighting, so we want both. So how do we have the canvas without it being speared with all of the poles of the lights? But the lights are so beautiful that we have to find a way to have the lights and the community building.
Patrick's projects tend to have this powerful record of people working together in beautiful ways, in a beaming way. So the people putting the canvas down that you recorded last year, there's this whole other thing that's happened this year that really is beautiful and is a record of this moment in time that people will look at 50 years from now and go, wow.
We did have to do quite a pivot. You know, COVID came out of nowhere, and the PinkTriangle was not going to go away for this year. It was going to be there in some way, and it is. And sure. People keep saying, what a great pivot. Well, it was a pivot, and rather than be an outline during the daytime, we also have the spectacular lighting during the night, and it truly came out well just when we need it. Like we always said, this PinkTriangle will shine as a beacon of hope over San Francisco for the 50th anniversary of Pride. And it did. And it still is for another week and a half, and we want everyone to see it. And it's been wonderful. Every year I just feel this like a warm blanket around myself. And now for the 25th time, it's happening again, but it's a bigger blanket because you know, the joy of meeting new people, and it's really the torch procession by Patricia Wilson. You know, the idea from the beginning was to engage as much as the community. Just because the Pride Parade has been canceled doesn't mean the community's been canceled. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are not canceled. The Dykes on Bikes were not canceled. The PinkTriangle was not canceled. All of these activists who have their own events every year were not canceled. And they were all brought into the PinkTriangle procession or to the ceremony atop Twin Peaks with Sister Roma and the mayor. And the volunteers were still there. So even though the word canceled was used liberally in some ways, really so much was not canceled. And the community spirit certainly wasn't canceled. The spirit is there deep and will always be.
Well, I like what you both said. It brings hope in this darkest moment we're living in. And that's the thing I think most of us needs to remember, you know, throughout the crisis, through creation and through arts, we thrive. You know, we're gonna keep moving forward. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching. If you want to see the PinkTriangle, just head to the Twin Peaks in San Francisco until July 10th. Thank you so much once again. Have a good night.